And red is hot. So if you're red, you're
I will call the meeting to order and ask the secretary to call the roll.
Abuzana,
Aye.
Barnett,
Aye. Here.
Connolly,
Present.
Curtis,
Present.
Gilbert,
Present.
Hightower,
Present.
Salger,
Present.
Simmons,
Present.
Williams.
Present.
We have a full house.
We do.
Anyway, I want to welcome everybody to the SIU Board of Trustee meetings today. And it's my proud privilege to introduce our newest member of the SIU Board of Trustees, Dr. Deborah Barnett, who's over here in the blue. She is the proud SIU alumni and a first-generation college student. Dr. Barnett currently serves as the Executive Director of the SI Now, a 17-county regional economic development initiative dedicated to strengthening business growth, workforce development, and investment in Southern Illinois. She brings with her a wealth of experience as an educator, administrator, entrepreneur, and community leader, and having served in a variety of roles at SIU and across the region. We are delighted to welcome Dr. Barnett to the board and look forward to the insight, dedication, passion for SIU and Southern Illinois that you bring to this important work. So welcome. Okay. There will be a public questions and comments portion available at today's meeting to last up to 15 minutes, a total of 3 minutes per speaker. Madam Secretary, are there any persons that wish to speak today?
Yes, Amy Bodenstad.
Thank you. We have emailed the statement to the board, but we hadn't gotten a response, so we wanted to make sure that it was heard prior to anything that might happen in this meeting or tomorrow's meeting. To the Board of Trustees for SIUE, we, AFSCME Local 2887, Council 31, are writing you, speaking to you, as employees of SIUE, the people who do the daily work of running this university. While you receive polished reports from upper administration about their own performance, you rarely hear from those of us directly impacted by their decisions. It's time you do. Chancellor James T. Minor has consistently ignored the expertise and input of SIUE employees. Instead of engaging with us, he has wasted money on consultants who dictate answers rather than listening for truth. The results have been a series of misguided decisions that waste more money, squander time, and damage morale. Examples of poor leadership and waste include a hastily implemented leave report ordered by Dr. Minor without proper consultation, which wastes time and labor every month. Dr. Minor justified millions in rebranding costs based on a flawed surveys of just 100 students. Branding was never a deciding factor for enrollment, yet SIUE has wasted money repainting the water tower early to the tune of about $500,000, replacing signs, trashing logo merchandise from the Cougar store instead of selling it at a discount, and more. He now proposes spending, $1 million on cushioned outdoor seating for the quad. Dr. Minor declared a budget crisis without evidence, denied fair wages to staff, and simultaneously created high-paying positions for personal hires, such as his own event coordinator, despite SIUE already having an entire department that handles events. The wrapping of the new branding that was put on fire-rated doors, which is against code and needs to be removed. The enormous metal frames with banners now attached to outsides of buildings that were advised against for safety reasons. Dr. Minor did it anyway. Quad lights are put up illegally, as the fire marshal has said they are against code. But what happens when the university architect tries to safeguard our students and our university? Well, Dr. Minor has someone demote the architect. We wish our architect was the first to experience the vengeance of Dr. Minor, but that is not the case. Employees who truthfully report issues, rather than simply agreeing with Dr. Meyer, face retaliation or removal. Staff can overhear the chancellor shouting at employees behind closed doors. This behavior, combined with his unchecked authority to fire at will, except for those of us in the union who have some protections, creates an atmosphere of fear and instability. The fear mongering about the prioritization of programs, yet when you go to the meeting, you hear that most of those programs had already done their work and the papers were sitting on desks of upper administrators. The fear mongering about the budget that was proven false by Dr. Miner himself. The fear mongering about salaries being the largest line in the budget, as if that's not normal and appropriate. Through the SPA process, Dr. Miner tightly controls these positions that are to be posted. He refused to post building service worker positions for the new sterile health medical building, instead approving only temporary workers who are paid more per hour, plus there's a cost to pay the agency. Meanwhile, critical needs remain unmet. Structural issues in multiple buildings, including foundations and roofs, which pose safety risks. Our accounting system is decades old, yet instead of replacing it, Dr. Miner lays inefficient add-ons that pull from the same system. Workloads grow impossible because hiring is frozen in many departments and for many positions, with no reforms to streamline processes of how the work should get done. An itemized budget, essential for transparency and accountability, still does not exist. Most importantly, Dr. Miner has never meaningfully engaged with SIUE employees to understand what truly needs to be fixed here. The conclusion is clear. Dr. Miner has demonstrated no real interest in our students, their welfare, or the long-term health of this university. His pattern of wasteful spending, unsafe decisions, toxic leadership, and disregard for employees' expertise makes him unfit to serve as chancellor. Reappointing Chancellor James T. Miner would send a devastating message to employees, students, and their families that their safety, education, and future are secondary to one man's whims. We urge you in the strongest possible terms, do not rehire James T. Miner as chancellor for SIUE. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the SIUE presentation. Provost Cobb, will you please introduce this item?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm very pleased to introduce our presenters today. Their work will reinforce the ways that universities can make a difference far beyond our campuses and have an enduring influence on the lives of members of our communities. Dr. Tandra Taylor is an assistant professor of history and serves as interim director for the Institute for Community Justice and Racial Equity based in Belleville. The Institute strives to achieve positive transformational change for Southwestern Illinois' historically marginalized communities through a focus on educational access, opportunity, and equity. The Institute aligns with SIUE's bold strategic plan and embodies the vision of Vice Chancellor Harris and Dr. Taylor. As part of this work, Dr. Taylor leads SIUE's Freedom School, which just completed its second summer, reaching significantly more children and families in our region with tremendous impact. Dr. Taylor is joined by two of our outstanding students today, Omar Jackson and Anaya Sykes. They are here to share the incredible stories from the Freedom School and its impact through their presentation, No School Like Freedom School, Engagement and Impact at SIUE. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Provost Cobb, for extending the invitation for us to present about the work that we do at SIUE Freedom School. While some of you here may have heard about this initiative before today, many still may be unclear or asking, what is all the hype about with Freedom? Freedom School. So today we hope to provide as immersive of a presentation as we possibly can without your being physically present with us during the summers. There is a song that we sing in Freedom Schools across the country, but it is a favorite here at SIUE Freedom School. So much so that when we hosted our finale showcase, pictured here, it's an event that we host at the end of the summer. We chose this as our processional song. The song is Call and Response, and it goes like this. The caller goes like this. Ain't no school like Freedom School. So it's call and response. If you want to join in, you may. And it continues. Reading books is really cool. Gaining knowledge through the words. I'm down with the Freedom School, haven't you heard? I'm down. Are you down? I'm down. Are you down? And so, pardon our trio, and I'm no songstress, but imagine if you can, the evening of the finale showcase, an 8th grade student, Jade Butler, a student from Edwardsville, Illinois, who loves to sing. She's the caller. And she's followed by over 100 of her peers, responding proudly, melodically, declaring publicly their love for reading and learning. Imagine those voices bouncing off of the walls in the Meridian Ballroom, echoes that those children, their families, and our students won't soon forget. In fact, one elementary student, 1st grade, Jordan Roberson, I won't forget him, lamented, "I wish my school was like Freedom School." Today, I'm accompanied by undergraduate students. We will demonstrate what's unique about SIUE Freedom School as a model for what represents the best of educational possibilities across a K-16 landscape. So we look at it like a one continuum. First, I'll start with a short video, pardon me. I'll start with a short video, followed by an exploration of what is Freedom School, what does it do, and what is the impact here at SIUE, and then we'll close with student remarks. May we start the video, please?
Every university has a responsibility to leverage its power to improve the communities that are within your reach. One of the ways we do that here at SIUE is through Freedom School. It's a faculty-led effort that engages elementary and middle schoolers with a focus on literacy and a love for reading.
Freedom School is a 6-week immersive literacy-loving program that brings in an energy and excitement of music through cheers and chants, brings in multi-generational interactions by having college students teach and mentor and walk alongside middle school and elementary school age students, but also allows SIUE faculty and staff like myself to mentor those college students who are mentoring and working with young people.
My daughter-in-law invited me because I learned that 2 of my grandkids were a part of Freedom School. I thought it was a really nice turnout of kids, and I love to see the parents as well coming to family night. I would have came to this if this existed when I was going to school. It is more like a really fun way to learn, and I would definitely would have devoted my time to a program like this when I was growing up.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll get into a little bit more clearly, what is Freedom School? So 1964, inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King and other civil rights activists such as Fannie Lou Hamer and Ella Baker, college students from across the nation descended on the Delta of Mississippi and created one of the most successful grassroots movements, grassroots efforts of the movement actually, to focus on literacy and leadership development. So that's what we focus on here, literacy and leadership development. This was known as Freedom Summer. And so one standout student, he became the architect of the Freedom School curriculum that focuses on literacy, citizenship, and recreation for Mississippi's disenfranchised youth. That summer, Freedom School served over 1,000 children in Mississippi. Today, Children's Defense Fund Freedom Schools, that's our national partner in this work, serves over 11,000 students across 36 states. In Illinois, only 2 higher education institutions sponsor a Freedom School, but SIU is distinguished in that we are the only university sponsor that also brings those children on our campuses. In 2024, an inaugural team of 7 undergraduates led engaging activities for those 50 middle school students exclusively here on the Edwardsville campus. In 2025, the program expanded from 50 to 150, now including elementary students, and we're spread across 3 sites, Alton, East St. Louis, and Edwardsville. That expansion created an opportunity to hire 20 students instead of 7. So now, what does Freedom School do? So we'll talk a little bit about the work, the outcomes of Freedom School. So I don't know if anybody in this room are familiar with the Nation's Report Card. Goes by the National Assessment of Educational Progress. So last week, the results came in and showed a decline in literacy scores in 4th, 8th, and 12th graders. To folks in this room, leaders in higher education, this should be an alarm kind of sounding, right? So what are we going to do about that? Just over 30 students at each of those levels are proficient in reading. And this trend, we know as educational leaders that a disparity in reading is like a precursor to other disparities. So Freedom School is a way to intervene to help K-12 students avoid that summer reading loss. At the end of 6 weeks, we found that 84% of Freedom School participants maintained or improved their reading skills. Freedom School also accomplishes this kind of boost or maintenance of reading skills by making reading fun, by creating words that make reading cool, but to pop culture beats. So it's something that young folks can relate to. And it makes reading accessible through the careful selection of text. And it makes reading relevant through the application of problem solving, of that literacy on problem solving challenges. By the end of the summer program, parents report, 96% of parents report that they see an increased confidence in their children. So these are not all kind of like top 10% of students. That's not the work of Freedom School. So any child is welcome to the program. So these may be some learners who don't have a ton of confidence in reading, and now they're reading confidence just because it's been made fun or cool, or like in a judgment-free zone, they're improved their reading confidence. One of the most impressive aspects of this program is family and community engagement night. So each week, each site hosts events that center learning and fun, but they pull families together. And so it's characterized by children and parents sitting side by side with SIUE faculty, staff, students, even elected officials. You all saw Mayor Goins of Alton, also Senator Chris Belt has been one of our volunteer guests. And it's not unusual to find Dr. Miner sitting alongside parents doing some sort of activity. And so it's this sort of grassroots community building, relationship building that incites interest among parents to do more activities with their children. By the end of the summer, we saw that 94% of parents reported they were much more likely to engage in community and civic activities with their children. Now, this matters for a ton of reasons, but I want to pause here and take a second and look at this kid in the black t-shirt at the top, the photo at the top. It's Kelsey Malone Jr. And I know you're not supposed to have favorite students, but Kelsey is one of my favorites, okay? Well, he's my favorite all on his own, but a couple of weeks back, I learned that Kelsey's mom, who's now a 2-year Freedom School parent, has enrolled this fall to finish out a degree in integrative studies. And I can't necessarily take credit for Mrs. Malone's return back to school, but I would like to think that Freedom School's consistent show in community has increased brand favorability and loyalty. So working with, let's see, can we advance the slide? Thank you. So working with over 150 students is not something I can do by myself or I can do with the help of just 2 students. Freedom School brings together faculty, staff, alumni, all these seemingly disparate groups into its own sort of ecosystem. Last summer, we had faculty and staff from Impact Academy, the Office of Retention and Student Success, the College of Arts and Sciences, the School of Education, Health and Human Behavior. And I don't know that there is another vehicle that would normally bring those threads together in this way. So we hosted 150 students, but there is a reverberative impact of the work of Freedom School. So not just an impact on those 150 students, as the case with the Malone family, we see that Freedom School is also impacting other adults, younger siblings connected to that one child who's an actual program participant. I'd like to say, we can continue. Yeah, that we're here. That we're not only growing in favorability in the eyes of the community members, but our most dear stakeholders, our students. Our growth to 3 sites has allowed us to hire more students on behalf, and over half of them were first-year students. We were able to retain 83% of our first-year servant leader interns. It's the role we created with SIUE students in mind to return back for a second summer. And as I mentioned to Dr. Minor a few weeks back, as we celebrated the news of meeting our retention goal of 80% for African American students in the 2024 cohort, my hope is to see Freedom School optimized as an intervention to contribute to our new retention goal for that subset of students to being 90%. So we want to be a part of this movement. Students at SIUE agree that Freedom School is more than a job. Over half of those servant leaders go on to support other university initiatives, including the Summer Success Program and BSc. They often come back and create their own student organizations that foster belonging while deepening student connection to the curriculum. So I want to pause here because I'm about to pivot to the real main part of this, the voice you want to hear just from the students. There is a student who was not able to join us because of her teaching commitment here at the university, Michaela Mallon. So Michaela Mallon was a part of that first cohort of 7 students. She stuck around with us for a second year. Maybe we'll see if we can get her back next summer. But she is now a graduate student in the Department of English, and she wrote an essay for the Student Dispatch here in our university media. And that essay, went viral loosely. Okay, so the Children's Defense Fund, our national partner in this work, found the essay, reached out to Michaela, shared her essay on their platforms, their website. I invite you to scan this QR code if you want to know, what Michaela has to say about Freedom School. The QR code is here for you. And then that's it for me for now. I'm going to pass this over to our students. First, you'll hear from Ms. Anaya Sykes, followed by Mr. Omar Jackson.
I am Anaya Sykes. I am from St. Louis. Go Birds. When I first stepped into the world of SIUE's Freedom School, I was sure it was just going to be a normal summer internship. It was the quite opposite of every single one of those words, especially it just being one specific thing. In the summer of 2024, I was a servant leader intern. So to understand better in the terms of Freedom School, I was a servant leader intern, which is also a SLI, but we are the teacher figures in this ecosystem. So in my role as a SLI, I had the honor of fostering a positive, inclusive, and stimulating environment with a set number of scholars on a day-to-day basis. In the summer of 2025, I was promoted to site coordinator. So I was now the principal figure in the Freedom School ecosystem. I went from my own set of 5th grade scholars to now coordinating 4 SLIs and 50 1st through 4th grade scholars. I thought I had bitten off more than I could have chewed. I knew that if I had not shown an ounce of capability in the summer before, I would not have been chosen for this position. So I needed to remember my why, my who, and my how. My first Freedom School year, I was hit head first with the idea of teaching being my happily ever after. I thought that idea with tooth and nail. My second Freedom School year, I learned to stop fighting, being a lead role model to 50 little people and a mentor to 3 incoming sophomores and a graduate student. I knew I had no choice but to stop declining the call to my passion. In this lead role, I was able to strengthen my leadership skills and stewardship to help advance the student organizations that I'm a part of and a co-founder of, and eventually the elevating levels of my future career. And this past summer, not only contributed to the growth of those talents, but also my confidence in my decision-making abilities, my voice, and my path to purpose. Overall, my Freedom School journey has not been a one-size-fits-all, but it has been a journey of reflection and a building block to my future. From leading an integrated reading curriculum or IRC lesson to now spearheading an entire site. Both summers have taught me that when anything comes naturally to you and hardest to other, you should look within to see if it may be the avenue to your personal success and happiness. I'm now going to turn it over to Omar Jackson.
Hello, good evening. My name is Omar Jackson. I'm actually class of 2025. I'll be graduating this winter with my BA in Spanish. Thank you. Yeah, so through Freedom School with this Cheers and Chants, motivational song, and I Can Make a Difference philosophy, it's provided me with enough motivation and self-confidence to pursue endeavors I previously never would have thought possible for myself. I withdrew from my higher education pursuits at the University of Kentucky during the pandemic and returned to my hometown of Centerville, Illinois, now known as Cahokia Heights. In this almost 3-year period, I worked various jobs and engaged in study at YouTube University, convinced that I would never be returning to the public school system. Thankfully, something in me gave, and I gave into the advice of my mom, who's an SIU alumni, and I ended up coming back here and pioneering Freedom School a semester later. My return required the unlearning of a lot of my previous beliefs attached to my religious beliefs, spiritual beliefs. I recently attained through my self-study because they contrasted completely with Freedom School's social justice warrior mentality. Okay, maybe not entirely, because we did have a moment of silence during Harambe that we did with the kids, which is like a meditation. But yeah, it tore my beliefs every which way but loose, to say the least. Freedom School made me look back and ask myself, who would have benefited from me staying withdrawn and becoming an ascetic? Because in the integrated reading curriculum, I Can Make a Difference in Myself was only the first out of 6 weekly themes of the program. After making a difference in ourselves, this change naturally progressed through our families, communities, country, and finally our world. But might I add that Freedom School already knew that in making a difference, you're often met with challenges meant to discourage you, much like a worldwide pandemic that interrupts your education. Thus, the final weekly theme was I Can Make a Difference through hope, education, and action. I mean, who doesn't want to make a difference, leave a legacy behind? I sure did, but it was buried beneath my newfound philosophies of everything's perfect and just go with the flow. And I was recovering, these were beliefs that I adopted while I was recovering from a period of hardship. However, through the lens of Freedom School's IRC curriculum, I wouldn't have made it far in leaving a legacy after my personal transformation, as that would have only covered the first step of the process. I began to embody the weekly theme shortly after becoming involved in the program. I did so while service learning in my local youth center as I studied abroad in Costa Rica this past spring, making a difference in the world and my community. Upon my return, I became interested in the competitive Fulbright grant, graduate school, and started a line dance club, which was another feature of national training that I enjoyed a lot. I also attended the Ella Baker trainer interest meeting at this year's national training, and I decided I was so down with the Freedom Schools that I would gladly undertake this 5-year commitment. Freedom School became an avenue for me to grow in ways I did not know I was capable of. So when I sing Ain't No School Like Freedom School, and I ask if you're down because I'm down, I really meant that. Thank you.
Thank you. We may have a second for maybe 1 or 2 questions from the audience, if there are any.
I got one.
Okay.
So this is a summer program, correct?
Yes.
Where do you get your students from? I mean, do you partner with the grade schools and how do you get the students, and do you have a limit on how many you can take during the summer?
Yes, recruiting has worked differently depending on the site. In the first year, when we recruited 50 students, that was our heaviest lift because it was a new program that no one had heard of. And so we had students represented from over 20 different schools across St. Clair and Madison counties, even some from St. Louis City and County. So that was the first year of recruiting. It took a lot of grassroots efforts. You saw Dr. Cindy Reed on that short video. She's the heart and soul of Freedom School, pushing into schools, I don't know, science fairs, parent and me nights, whatever we could to get in front of students, families, communities, and say, hey, you don't want to miss this opportunity at SIUE. The second year worked a little bit differently. We demonstrated that this was probably one of the most quality program, if not the highest quality summer program in this area. So it was less challenging to recruit. We used social media. We had then 50 families who were then telling neighbors, friends, this is a great program, you should try it. What's distinctive about our second year is we actually do have a partnership with Alton Middle Schools, and it's that site is hosted at Alton Public Schools, but it's hosted at the middle school. So Superintendent Kane wanted to create an opportunity for leadership development at her middle school. And so the Alton site is kind of closed to Alton students. So that was very kind of different. So working with teachers who knew of rising middle schoolers or teachers at the middle school level who could make recommendations for candidates in the program. Each program supports 50 students, so the cap is 50 at each site.
Dr. Hightower, we need to publicize this program.
We do.
I mean, we
do.
need to follow your lead on that.
We really do. We tell our story, right? Two questions, and I had one that Chairman asked. How do the students get from their community to here?
Okay.
That's one.
Again, like recruiting, transportation is different for each site. So I'll start first with Alton because that's the simplest. Each site, Alton's no different, has the opportunity for parents who want to bring their children to the program. So parent drop off. Because Alton Public Schools has its own bus transportation, many of the students there are taking Alton school buses.
Okay.
So that's that, and it's the beauty of that relationship, that partnership with Alton. Edwardsville and East Edwardsville is different. So again, you have a lot of parents who are here locally, Glen Carbon, Edwardsville, dropping kiddos off. We also have a bus that comes from our campus in East St. Louis to Edwardsville, doing a round transportation route each day. And East St. Louis does not have a bus for those students. East St. Louis is our site that only supports elementary school. We keep those two populations separate. And so every scholar participant in the program in East St. Louis is being dropped off. We realized that by opening it up to elementary school students, many families would have kiddos at 2 levels. And so it's convenient for families who have elementary school students to drop off in East St. Louis and send the middle schooler up to Edwardsville. And when they pick up in East St. Louis, the bus is arriving. So they all go home together as a family.
And the second question, is there a relationship with the intern students who work in the program and the possibility of them pursuing a career in education, teaching as a career?
Yes, this program puts them kind of squarely in conversation with educators. In fact, many of our students are kind of being recruited in Alton Public Schools already before they've even finished because they did such a standout job, and that was a new site. And so that site was led, there's a site coordinator, as Anaya Sykes mentioned, at each site. The site coordinator in Alton was from among the ranks of Alton administrators, and she could not stop singing the praises of our students that were there that summer. The other students on the other campuses have an opportunity to interact in community spaces. Many of our parents are teachers or teacher adjacent, some supportive role in an education ecosystem, and they see kind of like the magic that our students have and their ability to motivate, to encourage, to inspire. Those children look up to our students like they're bigger than life.
Good, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No questions, but a comment. Congratulations.
Thank
Hats
you.
off to you, your team, the student servant leaders. Readers are leaders, right? So you're building leaders. And I just want to commend you. Phonemic awareness and reading. When students can read, they're more confident in their learning. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other? I just say that you are teaching the future leaders of our country. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, the next item is the 2026 Board of Trustee meeting schedule is on the agenda for tomorrow's morning meeting. Is there any discussion about the changes needed to that item? I think it's, each of you should have had a copy of that, and if there are any changes, we need to talk about it not now. Okay. The next item is the Ohio Valley Conference certification form for SIU Edwardsville, which is presented to the board annually and signed by the chair. I've signed the form, and the signed form will be sent to the Ohio Valley Conference. The next item is the FY 2026 operating budget discussion. President Mahoney, will you introduce this item?
Yes, I will. And because it relates to the budget and they're both here, I decided this is probably a good opportunity to introduce you to a couple people. Our Executive Director of Internal Audit, Yvonne Thompson, is here today. We approved her, and Yvonne, if you stand up so people can see it. We approved her in July, but she was in the back and I didn't know she was there, so I don't think I adequately introduced her to all of you. She has been doing a lot of work, particularly working with our external auditors on that, which you'll hear from her at a later meeting on the results of that process. And our new Vice President for Financial and Administrative Affairs and Board Treasurer, Justin Oates, is with us as well. His appointment's on the agenda for tomorrow. He started Monday because he said, I'm so excited to go to a board meeting. I want to start 2 days before and come to a board meeting immediately. So welcome to both of them, and both are have already been doing some work for us and doing a great job. We will now do presentations of the budgets at SIUE, followed by SIUC, Carbondale, and School of Medicine. Again, as we typically do, we'll briefly walk through the budget and particularly focus on changes from last year's budget to this year's budget, so things that are new. So turn it over to Chancellor Minor first.
Thank you, President Mahoney. I would like to begin with one introduction of my own, if that's okay. SIUE has a new Director of University Budget and Analytics. Her name is Ann DeToy. She's here today. Ann, would you just say hello? Thank you. Sitting next to her is Nick. So the budget team I made them sit to where I could look over and see them. If I go off the rails here, they can pull me back in. I'll try to be brief. The 3-page summary in the board packet concerning SIUE's budget, there are probably 3 highlights that I want to make. Last year, this time at the September meeting, SIUE for FY25 submitted a budget with a $10.3 million structural deficit. And that was concerning. It's roughly 2 to 3% of our overall budget. We believe that we could manage it, but our goal was to come back this year and submit a budget without structural imbalances. And so we are very pleased as a university to submit to this board a budget that is balanced and does not have structural imbalances. So the FY26 budget is balanced, which is a huge accomplishment for this university. There are a few things that I think are noteworthy. One is that we had better than projected enrollment, which was significant. As you heard Dr. Taylor mention, we also as a university had better than anticipated retention from one year to the next. So not only did we beat the enrollment projections in the budget, we were also able to have upticks in enrollment. So the number and percentage of students who were returning ticked up in a significant way that had a financial impact on our budget. The other thing that we mentioned that maybe you hear less often is we have spent a lot of time over the last 24 months updating our budget and accounting ecosystem. both in terms of how we structure and develop budgets, the role that the budget office plays, the way we deliver budget information to leaders across the campus, and the tools that we were using for budget and accounting have all evolved over the last 12 or 24 months, led by the budget office, which has had a significant impact on our ability to see variances throughout the year and much more frequently rather than at the end of the year. We were able to manage the expenses for the university. I think we have started a process of considering the structure for the university. We have, led by the provost's office, started the academic prioritization process. We rolled out an early retirement incentive program in FY25, and we have began a sort of systematic modernization of our operations, which will include some restructuring. We have done all of this over the course of FY25 leading up to FY26 without spending a single dollar from the university's reserve. In fact, we have been able to add to the capital amount for our cash reserves, and we have been able to improve the cash position for the university, which you'll see in your packet. As with respect to the FY26 budget, it is still fairly conservative. We believe even in the first quarter of the budget that our projections will outpace what we have submitted to the board. We have to submit the budget before we have enrollment numbers for the fall, and so we're already ahead of where we budgeted for FY26. Two big elements. One will be the salary expense for the university, which we will have to manage. We expect it to tick up, but somewhere between $6 and $8 million for the university. The other major expense that we're experiencing is the energy and utility costs for the university. So from one year to the next, we're probably $2 to $2.5 million higher just in terms of expenses for electricity. During the course of FY26, we will break ground on the first major solar project here on campus, which is expected to bring our energy costs down. And we have tasked the Vice Chancellor's office for budget and administration with a plan that will reduce energy consumption across the university by at least 15%. All of those things are underway, but we expect that we will end the year with a balanced budget and in a strong financial position. I'll just conclude by also referencing that the cash position, all of the financial indicators that you look at for a university are fairly stable, and the university is on sound financial ground.
Good afternoon, and I want to take us back a few years. I remember when we hired Susan Simmers, she didn't believe me, but I said, boy, you have a lot of work to do. And she's been doing this work almost single-handedly. She's got a great staff, but Susan, if you could wave, she's not new anymore. She's got like 30 years here now, but Susan does an amazing job in our office. And I think you've just hired a new associate Vice Chancellor that's going to help her out, and he's already on campus. I saw him the other day. So I just wanted to say we couldn't do any of this without Susan. We talk quite often, and I'm always amazed at her ability to look at all these different documents and put things together. So just looking in your packet, I'm going to go through a few areas. I'll begin with the state appropriation increase. That's a $852,000 increase over fiscal year 2025. As you know, we were expecting about a $2.6 million increase. As you know, again, the state held back 2% of the 3% increase. That amounted to about $1.7 million for our campus. Want to talk a little bit about some of the income fund, and as you probably remember this as the payback, just to give you a good update and a little bit of a historical context. The big takeaway here is that we've made some real progress with our cash deficit by adding $3.6 million to the fund. So last year we ended fiscal year 25 or fiscal year 25 at 5.8 million. And again, that number last year actually was 9.3 million. So talk about really getting that number down. But let me go back a little bit. In 2019, that number was at 19 million. That was the deficit. And Susan pointed out, I didn't realize this, was actually at 79 million until we got a bump, I think, Susan, from the state to knock that down. But fiscal year 19, it was 19 million. Fiscal year 20, 17 million. Fiscal year 21, 14 million. Fiscal year 2022, 13 million. Fiscal year 23, 12 million. Fiscal year 24, as I just mentioned, 9.3 million. And we ended this year, again, 5.8 million. So over 2019 to 2025, we reduced that by $16.3 million. And we still got a little work to do to take care of that 5.8. We think maybe over the next 2 years, we can still get that number down. So again, that's hats off to everyone at our institution for tightening up the belt and really working together to make sure that we hold true to our fiduciary responsibility. The last column you'll see on there, the all funds total, that projects that we will use about 15.5 million in cash in fiscal year 26. I want to point out that 9.2 million of that 15.5 is athletics. And as I say that, I'm going to tell you this, Tim and his staff have been doing an amazing job with all the changes, Dr. Hightower, that are happening on the NCAA landscape. They have done a tremendous job. Kathy as well, his financial person. Myself, Tim, and Susan meet quite often to talk about how things are going and what they can do. And they have a lot of ideas on how to move that number down, whether it's through fundraising, whether it's through just some of the game guarantees and other things that they can do to dig into that number. Work. He is a definition of a human resources director. So glad to have him here. But he does a really good job in alerting us where we are as we look at these vacancy savings. Give an example, when we put this hiring chill in place last year, it saved us $6.4 million in vacancy savings. That was very significant. And even though we had these chills in place, we still ended up hiring 210 employees in A&P, civil service, and our faculty ranks. So they were very strategic hires. When those positions came available, we did not automatically fill them. We looked at our need across campus. We balanced that with provost, right, our credit hour production, what areas we're doing, and then made those decisions. And so we're able to do that and keep things moving. This year, we expect to achieve about 6.7 million in vacancy savings. And so we're going to if it's not broke, don't fix it. We're going to go right back to that again this year. We will also look at things like travel and contractual services that can contribute to the overall reduction. That remaining portion, as I mentioned, in athletics, they are looking really hard inside. I really want the board to hear that. They're making a commitment to try and get that number down and work with us. And they have some ideas in mind to do that. The desired commitments, this really gets into our people. And as you know, in order to retain talent, you've got to do some things to keep them. And so our salary increases in fiscal year 26 will total about 3.6 million. That's investing in our people. Fiscal year 25, it was 4.3 million. So it's a little less, but 3.6 this year. Give you a little detail in that fiscal year 26 salary increase detail. 2.5 million of that is for our CBAs. I think, Nick, we probably have 20 some odd unions that we talk about and meet with. It feels like every day, but we've got some commitments to our folks in those CBAs We've signed many of those with our faculty, our staff. Over the last couple of years, they're running about 4 years. So those agreements are already done and in place. It will give raises to our faculty who have already received those raises and our staff. $463,000 for CBIZ increases to minimum of range. And so we went with a consultant in CBIZ a couple of years ago, and we really wanted to make sure we can retain talent, bless you, and look at what exactly our employees, where they fit within the scope of our institution. And believe it or not, we had folks below the minimum. And we made a commitment to increase those individuals. And you'll see that as we continue to bring forward these requests for approval on increasing the salaries. Some of the folks in these categories, I'm so good to see these numbers. I think the highest person is going to receive a 44% increase. That's how far off they were within the organization. So they'll be doing backflips as they go out to the parking lot after work when they get this good news. So that's very helpful. It again helps us retain our folks that are working so hard. There's some compression adjustments to the tune of about $430,000 that we want to make. We've got folks who are compressed within their salaries. You know, we've had folks who've been here 20 years. Someone shows up in 1 month and they're making more than someone's been here 20 years. And they know that and they talk about that. So those are things we wanted to fix. $208,000 for non-represented employees. So that's a 1% across the board for everyone that's not going to benefit from a CBIZ increase to minimum or compression. So that individual on our campus, if they're non-represented, and we do have non-represented groups, will be at a 1% increase is what we're proposing. Susan reminds me of this with our utilities. They've been increasing. You heard Chancellor Minor mention the same thing. So the budget there was increased by about $2.5 million or 15%. Due to the utility rate increases. Our scholarships basically is an increase based on 16.9% of our billed tuition revenue. And then finally, our increase in uncollectible accounts due to changes in the Illinois legislation. Again, as you know, that students can now graduate and receive transcripts without paying off their bursar accounts. So those are just a few things that we're focused on this year. Feel really confident with the folks we have in place that are looking at all of these areas. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. I'll just go through page by page with some highlights. If you'll look at the first page that says SIU School of Medicine FY26 operating budget, line items, and major fund groups. I'll just start by saying also the great job that's been done by our financial team, John Horvat, both on the school and practice side, Jody Carey on the practice side, Carla Harney on the school side, have done a great job. And also, you'll see interwoven through this presentation some of the issues related to the clinical practice. And so I'll congratulate our faculty on how they've stepped up from the pandemic times on to now, that in a really great kind of way. 2 comments first before we get into the columns. First, we have made very few budget assumptions related to the bill, the OBBBA, or the executive orders from the federal government. We did make one, the indirect cost for research and the research amounts. We've actually decreased by $650,000 just because, like every medical school, there's going to be fewer NIH dollars to get, and there probably will be fewer. It could go down even further if the temporary injunction on the indirect does drop to the proposed 15%. On other things, the payments for Medicaid, the payments from HHS, HRSA, Health Resources and Services Administration, and our state-directed payments, most of those won't kick in until FY27 or FY28, so they are not included in this budget. So the first line I'd direct your attention to is the third column, actually, grants and contracts. Those are our research expenditures by and large. And that revenue and expenditures is always balanced. The next line over to the next column over to the right, indirect cost recovery, that does include research indirects, but also include state-directed payments, which will be at significant risk in future years, and a couple of other things. The next column to the right of that, faculty practice plan, it's also been called revenue bond account or something else like that in previous years. That's a pass-through. So that's money that's made by the clinical practice, comes to the school to be paid to civil service employees of the clinical practice, pay for leases and a few commodities. So that really better would be, it also is in the clinical budget, which you don't see today, but it's in both of them, and it's better in the other budget, actually. Our biggest piece is the next column, self-supporting activities. That column deserves a few comments. We have been very fortunate in the past 3 or 4 years with intergovernmental agreements for major projects like the Office of Correctional Medicine and the Behavioral Health Workforce Center. Those programs and a few other IGAs are growing rapidly. So we'll see surpluses in those budgets because we're trying to spend to bring those programs up to date. Other things in that line include the Federally Qualified Health Center, our Centers for Family Medicine, both their operational and clinical budgets, our academic support accounts with our partners, and our professional services agreements as well. So while we have some big surpluses in the IGAs, we have significant deficit in the academic support account, but it all kind of comes out this year. If you look at the very bottom of the blue area, the far right column, all funds 2026 total, you'll see that we're budgeting for just over a 1% positive operational bottom line. On the second page, just a couple of comments, the one entitled FY 25-26 revenue and expenditures by fund group. Actually, the comparison of the budget of FY 25 to what actually happened in FY 25 is there. If you look at the bottom of both of those columns, the two far left columns there, you'll see that our budget revenue was within $1 million out of $320 million budgeted. And then the expenditures within $2 million, so about 1/3% or 2/3 of 1%. So it was a pretty accurate budget. If you look over to the third column, budget for FY 26, and you look at grants and contract and look across the three columns there, you will see that decline that I mentioned before. We've had 2 major grants that have run out, and we don't have a prospect for those being renewed given the current climate. But I will say we got something unanticipated today, a $2.5 million 5-year grant for street medicine demonstration project. So we'll actually can increase that amount by $500,000, I think, as a matter of fact. The ending cash balances at the very bottom under the three years reflect a part of our operational reserves. It's the portion that's unrestricted. And so we're happy to say that that is a good amount to have some financial health and some financial security moving forward. And those are my comments. So.
Thank you, Dean Cruz. Now happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Mr. Chair, may I make a couple of comments if you may? 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, Mr. Simmons, Mr. Curtis, we joined our leader here. And as we came on the board, the chair and I, we spent quite a bit of time in Carbondale discussing how we were going to get through this $19 million deficit at that time.
We spent a lot of time at Stone Center meeting with people, didn't we?
And of course, the first thing we established was the leadership team, and starting with President Mahoney, and then Chancellor Lane. Then 3.5 years ago, we asked 3-4 years whenever it was, Chancellor Minor to come on board. He inherited about an $18 million deficit, in case somebody doesn't remember those critical times. And what our administration has done under the leadership of President Mahoney, our two outstanding chancellors, this board is simply amazing. And it's very upsetting, you know, when you come in and you throw a bomb, okay, criticizing someone like was just criticized, like Chancellor Minor was just criticized. When you look at what he has done over the last 3.5 years, number one, with this budget, with enrollment, with changing the trajectory of this campus, and I say the same thing with Chancellor Lane, and I say the same thing with the many, many issues this board inherited when we came back on the board. And as a matter of fact, our governor, if you recall, what did he say, Ed? Please help me. He wants SIU, the SIU system, out of the news from a negative point of view. He's going to give us resources, which he did, but it's up to us to hire good leadership to run this university system. And I want to just say, you know, as a former administrator, 19 years as superintendent, 40 years in education, 38 years in administration, and having been on this board on and off since about 2001, I've seen a lot. And the job that you have done, administration, in navigating us to a point where we are today cannot be understated. So when we hear the negativity like what we just heard a few minutes ago, I want to say to you, Chancellor Minor, please know that we support what you're doing. And certainly we went through the same thing with President Lane, Chancellor Lane, and we went through the same type of issues prior to, as a matter of fact, I don't think Dan really wanted to come when he was reading some of the, Phil and I, we had to really talk nicely to his wife to get him to come because of all of the negativity we were experiencing. Is that not right, Mr. Chair?
That's right. You know, Paula could write a book. But no, I echo your comments completely, Dr. Hightower. You know, I lived through the Rauner years, which were tough, where we received no money at all, no money at all, and our deficit just bloomed, just blossomed, just went out of control. And when we hired Dr. Mahoney, and then he hired Dr. Lane and Dr. Minor. This university today is in a better shape financially than a lot of universities in this entire country. I'd say most of them. And it's because of the leadership and the stewardship that our administrators have made. Sure, they've had to make hard decisions.
That's right.
And, you know, I'm in a job where when I have two people walk out of a courtroom, one's happy and the other one's sad. Because of decisions that I have to make. And they've made the hard decisions and they've been the right decisions, and we are on a trajectory to make this university and each of its campuses bigger and better than before. So I compliment President Mahoney and Chancellor Lane and Chancellor Minor, and as well as their staffs. My gosh, they couldn't do it without their staffs. And I'm sure they, you know, sometimes a staff person brings bad news to you, and you got to make some decisions. So Trustee Curtis?
Yeah, I think you did a great job summarizing the daunting financial position we were in 2019. Dr. Mahoney started on March 1 of 2020. You know what else happened on March 1 of 2020?
He shut the university down.
Yeah, the pandemic.
I'm not responsible for the pandemic, just so we're clear.
Did he really shut this university down?
He didn't. But I'm saying the impact that our nation faced and all of us for 2.5 years,
Exactly.
and then to dig out of that even speaks more to the success of this leadership team, because when Dan got here, he had to rebuild his chancellors and senior team in the organization. So I can't say enough compliments about what you've accomplished since March 1 of 2020 when you came, Dan. So it's a compliment to everybody that's working hard on this. And leadership matters. We heard, I understand public comment. People are entitled to say what they think, but I can tell you we see a very different picture. And we're very proud of this university and the position that it's in right now. So Justin, you're inheriting a lot better position than when we came on the board in 2019.
Exactly.
Thank you, Trustee Curtis. You through? No.
I'm through.
Dan, do you have anything?
Get that off my chest.
Anything else, Dan?
I don't know unless anybody else has anything to add, either the chancellors or Dean Cruz. No.
Okay. All right, next we will close the meeting to go into executive session. I move to close the meeting to the public for the purpose of considering pending, probable, or imminent court proceedings against or on behalf of the board. Appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees. Collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedule for one or more classes of employees, and review of executive session minutes, the relevant sections of the Open Meetings Act statute that allow for closed session are 5 ILCS 120/2C, paren C, paren 1, paren 2, paren 11, and paren 21. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Zena,
Aye.
Burnett. Aye. Connolly.
Present.
Aye, you mean aye.
Sorry, aye.